Well, our interview today for Coconuts TV is with long-term supporter of the club, both as Abbey United, I assume.
Abbey Action.
Abbey Action, indeed, and as Cambridge United, that's Derek Buxton. Derek, it's great to see you. Thank you very much for inviting us to your home today to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Let's start off with some of your background and your earliest memories of the club. Can you tell us where you grew up?
Well, I'm by birth. I'm a sort of Geordie. I was born in Stockton-on-Tees, County Durham, and my family are from the northeast, mainly Sunderland supporters. My early recollection of getting involved in football.
Yeah.
My old man was a music hall comedian and pantomime dame, and Mum was a tiller girl, sort of a trooper. And for some reason, which I never quite fathomed, we finished up living in digs, because the theatricals live in digs, don't they? Living in digs in Cambridge. And after a period of time, the old man retired, and we stayed in Cambridge. And so my earliest recollections of football was actually being taken by the old man up to the Abbey Stadium to see Cambridge United, which in those days I think was in the Eastern Counties League, playing sides like March and Great Yarmouth and Galston and what have you. And one of my early recollections was the arrival of Wilf Mannion to the club,
which we will definitely get to as we work our way through, Derek.
So that was my introduction.
So what sort of age would you have been when your dad first took you then to the Abbey?
Yeah, I was trying to think that this morning, but I knew you'd ask that question.
Yeah.
Damn, I thought.
Well, nothing is not predictable.
My guess, I imagine it would be easy to find out from the records when Wilf Mannion played for United, but my guess is I would have been 10, 11, 12.
Definitely second half of the 50s.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been to the Abbey, you've seen a few games with your dad.
Indeed.
Which is, I think, the way most of us started at one time or another.
I guess so, yeah.
You must have seen some phenomenal changes to the ground in that time.
Well, of course, in those days, the grandstand wasn't even there. I mean, they're now talking about taking it down now, they're building another one, but it wasn't even there when I started watching them. The Coldens Lane end was completely open, and the Having stand was about half the size that it is now.
Yeah.
So the only cover, and of course it was all standing, was this little Having stand either side of the halfway line, and the Newmarket Road.
Yes. Yeah. So did you have anything to compare this with, or was this as grand as you had seen?
Well, no, as I say, my only other recollection was Roker Park, which is a bit different.
Yes, I'd imagine so. So then, was it a natural move to become a Cambridge United supporter, or did it take some time?
No, it was I suppose instant, instant, and over all the years, 50 odd years sort of thing, it's never wavered. It's the only football score I'm interested in.
I understand.
Week in and week out. I mean, I don't go anymore. Became a bit disillusioned with football in general, but it's still the only score I'm interested in.
So even living as you do.
Well, I temper that slightly by saying that and hoping Peterborough lose. So that's the only other result I look for, I suppose.
We can edit this, Derek, but don't worry, we won't edit that bit. So it was a natural move to become a Cambridge United supporter at your age.
Yeah.
Did you have friends who were United supporters, or was it?
Well, of course, we're talking over a long period of time, so the friends to some have changed. But I've always had a group of friends that I used to go to the games with, and indeed, even when I was chairman of Abbey Action, which part of the deal of being chairman was a season ticket into the grandstand. But even in those days, I used to go to the ground and I used to go to the Having stand with my mates to watch the game, and after the game I used to go back to the vice president's club to talk to various people, because all the humour was in the Having stand.
Yeah, I think there are those who would say it was in the Newmarket Road end these days, but that's different.
Well, to be fair, you could take your choice, but there was a lot of humour at the Newmarket Road end and in the Having stand. I suppose the main difference at the time, and we're going back to when there was a lot more problems at football matches, if there were going to be any problems in those days, it was likely to be at the Newmarket Road end.
Interesting.
Rather than the Having stand, which is a bit more sedate.
Okay, so let's start with your early sort of memories in your early days. Can you remember any players who made an impression on you in the, say in the 50s to mid 60s?
It's difficult to put. I mean, I think people that stick in my mind are people like Brian Moore. And I don't know what you know about him, but he came to United from West Ham, and he had an accident and lost an eye, so he was no good for First Division football as it was in those days. So he came, but the bloke was a phenomenal football, playing way out of his class at Cambridge United. And I suppose the thing was, if you played to his good eye, he was all. He scored a huge number of goals. Brendan Batson. Very classy right fullback for us, and there was a period when, and I supported it, I thought Brendan should have been made manager. I mean, to have the first black manager in British football would have been quite something at the time.
Okay, Derek, there's one name that always comes up when we speak to folk, and that is inevitably Wilf Mannion. Did you ever see Wilf play?
Yes, as I said, the old man took me. That was my first recollection of playing, of going to the Abbey Stadium, and that was to see Wilf Mannion. But it wasn't just. He was playing for us, and he was outstanding, and that was. But there were great characters in the Eastern Counties League in those days as well. There was a guy called Wally Beach, who played for Marchtown United. He was about 6'13", and he about 20 stone sort of thing, and he was the old-fashioned centre forward. And by that I mean his main aim in life was to have a collision with the goalkeepers. Yeah, absolutely. And I vividly remember Cambridge playing March, and Mannion got the ball, and this great mountain of a man lumbered towards Mannion, and Mannion just dropped his shoulder, and he went lumbering off that way, and he came back, and Mannion dropped this shoulder, and he went lumbering off that way, and in the end, Wally Beach said, no, just go, mate, just go, that's all. Just get on with it.
So thinking about in those days, in the pre-league days, was this a very friendly club? Was it a club that you could get to know people, get to know the players?
Yeah. Well, not only that, I think other supporters as well. You know, supporters from other clubs. You stand side by side with supporters of other clubs in those days.
Yeah, unknown today, of course.
Yeah, and I mean, you might have arguments with them, but there was never any. I mean, it was only friendly argument. You know, support for your club.
So you said that. So let's think. Can you remember games against Cambridge City then?
Yes, I do.
Talking about rivalry.
Yes, I do. In fact, a couple of friends of mine that I played football with latterly were Jack McGrane and Matt McVitie, and I played with them, and because they still because both of them played for Cambridge City, and then Matt McVitie came for United, and I vividly remember seeing derby matches. My memory is mainly of Milton Road, because I think they were the senior club at the time. So for Cambridge United to go to Milton Road and get a result always seemed to me to be pretty good. But yeah, great days, and of course even things like the Eastern Professional Floodlit League that nobody probably recalls very much now. But I know there'd be 5,000 plus at the Abbey or at Milton Road to see them play in this midweek floodlit league, because floodlights were relatively new, and sides like Chelmsford City and Romford and these sort of sides, Barnet, you know, they used to come. I mean, they're all non-league, but they were serious rivals. And in fact, you know, the side that Bill Levers put together to get us out of the league, he bought, I think, Chelmsford's 4 best players.
He absolutely did. He most certainly did.
Terry Eads, Butcher, he was a centre forward, Cassidy, and Leggett, the Georgie best right winger that we got. I mean, he actually bought the 4 best players from Chelmsford City, who were really serious rivals.
Yeah, now you mentioned Bill Levers, and Bill is one who we've interviewed before, and he is a serious character.
Yeah.
With many memories of those days. He mentions effectively buying the Chelmsford front row. Just as you said. And our question to him was, how did you manage to attract players who were at the top of their game in that league to Cambridge? Obviously the club had something going for it at that time, and it must have been behind the scenes.
Well, it's not, yes, I remember we were playing Barnet in some kind of cup. I don't think it was the FA Cup, but it was a cup match. And this Barnet, and we were winning 5-something against Barnet, and this bloke said, well, yeah, he said, you know, you're playing well. He said, but you are the richest club in non-league football. And I thought, well, maybe we were the richest club. And then I sort of asked about, and we were the richest club in non-league football. And it was because the commercial side at United ran like scratch cards. You know, it was Cambridge United scratch cards. And the commercial manager at the time had got an absolute monopoly on these things. In all the pubs, in all the restaurants, everywhere you went, you walked in, they were on the bar. And he had a series of agents who went round, you know, paying out the money to the winners, collecting the cash. And the money they were generating was phenomenal.
It was Dudley Arliss, wasn't it?
Was it Dudley Arliss?
Yeah.
I mean, whoever it was, I mean, the bloke deserved a knighthood. I mean, it was just amazing. Because I was just a supporter at the time, you know. I didn't know anything about the economics until this guy from Barnet, and then I thought, well, yeah, how did we persuade Leggett, Cassidy, Eads and Butcher to leave Chelmsford City?
Fantastic, but it certainly seems to have been a system that many other clubs right through to the top clubs in the country copied at later times because it was so successful.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely dead right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. So that's us. We've moved slowly but effectively through into the late 60s when Bill Levers is there.
Yeah.
He's come along. He knows what he wants, and he tells us. And you may have heard this phrase recently that he had a 3-year plan for getting the club into the Football League. Yeah. Well, he seems to have done it in a couple of years.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
3. So do you remember? Can I ask you? Can you remember where you were when you heard that United had been actually elected to the league, because it was elected at that time?
No, in a word. I mean, I remember waiting for the news. I can't actually remember where I was, but because we'd won the Championship and the League Cup that year. We'd won the Southern League Championship and the League Cup, and I think we'd gone and played. Was it Gateshead we played to in the because we were Southern League, they were Northern League, but we were outstanding. We were an outstanding side, but of course in those days, you know, you didn't get in by winning the league. You only got in if the old regime voted you in. And for years after year after year after year after year, people applied, including people like Peterborough, of course, applied for entrance to the Football League, but the old firm closed gates. So you were never that confident. I mean, so when I heard the news, you know, I thought this was absolutely tremendous, because I'd been there to see us win the Southern League title, the game, and we knew we won the cup as well. And I thought, well, you know, surely they've got to sit up and listen. I mean, I don't know what the circumstances were with Bradford Park Avenue at the time, but for us to get in was unheard of, more or less unheard of at the time.
I think Bradford Park Avenue had ended up bottom of the league on several occasions.
Well, that didn't seem to matter though.
No. Yeah,
you know, Hartlepool, Darlington, Bradford Park, you know, it didn't matter. They got re-elected every year in and year out.
Okay, Derek. So I'm going to come back, because we've got ourselves to the time when Cambridge were elected to the league in 1970. But I'm going to bring you as far up to date as I can, just for the moment, and say, can you remember where you were when you heard that Cambridge United had got back into the Football League this year?
We have a little place in Cyprus, and we spend 3 months of the spring and 3 months of the autumn out there. And I was sitting at home. I was sitting in my place in Cyprus, which is it's our second home, and we had my next door neighbour's a Luton Town supporter, but he's managed to get whatever it was on TV in Cyprus.
Yes, yeah.
So we were actually watching the game. So I actually watched the game, and our neighbours around my next door neighbour's Luton Town. The next door to him is Stevenage. And a couple of doors away from him is Wolves. So you can you imagine sitting in Cyprus, right? Because Luton had already won the championship. We'd won the FA trophy. And the Luton Town guy said, well, yeah, that's all right, very well, win the FA Trophy, but if you don't get promoted, it's not a good year. I mean, I said, absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then the Stevenage guy was saying, well, we're not going to go down, and of course they went down, and Luton went up, and Cambridge went up. So now we've got some local derbies next year. So we were actually watching it. My next door neighbour's, he'd got, was it BT or something?
It was on BT Sport.
Oh, he's got one of these gadget things that you that you can get all these. I mean, I've got it here, but I haven't got it in Cyprus.
Yeah.
We've got the.
Oh, you got BT.
We've got the BT
Internet,
Sports thing here.
Yes. Yeah.
But we haven't got it out there. My next door neighbour managed to get it, so we were.
Good. So
And the relay was going round the complex.
yeah. So there will be some rivalry next year with these teams
Certainly will.
in the
Certainly will.